Welcome everyone to the 2020 November 25 Diagnostics Working Group meeting. We are going to go through the items flagged to the diagnostics agenda. But first, does anyone have any announcements this week? Okay. So let me share my screen before I get started. The first two items we have are related to Diagnostics channel. Those are two pull requests that Stephen opened. Stephen won't be able to join today, so I don't think we have enough context to discuss this. But he asked please for someone to review those pull requests so that they can land. And if anyone in the meeting or anyone listening can review those pull requests, that would be great. Those are to improve the diagnostics channel API that has landed on Node.js 15, I think. Not sure if it was backported. I don't think so.
Yeah, they're definitely in master. I'm not sure if they're back in any of the releases yet, but
I think they are on 15 since
15?
This is a experimental API.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, if anyone can help review those, I can try to help review today or tomorrow since this week is a lot less noisy
There's less people
on
around,
the US.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot less people around. So I'll try to review, but it would be good to have someone else also trying to review.
Yeah, I'd taken a quick look at them. I just hadn't convinced myself like on the complexity versus benefit sides of things.
On both requests, or
I think on either of them, like like making the diagnostic channel async iterable, you know, even talking with Cord, it kind of sounded a bit like, oh, it's a nice to have, not sure. The other one, in terms of the span, it was kind of like, how complicated do we need to make it? But I know Florin has been going back and forth quite a bit too. But so I guess just to say, I have looked at them, but not at the point where like I was, yeah, okay, +1 or anything else.
Yeah, the span API has some discussion at least.
Yep.
The async iterable has no discussion so far. So I think it would be good to start with the async iterable. Also, just looking at what each request is adding, I think I'd be more inclined to add async iterable than the span API.
Yeah, well, I think that'd be good if you take a look and if you have like, because even couched it as this is just an idea or maybe helpful, right? I'm kind of like in some cases, unless there's some poll, it's like, it's definitely, I think it was like if we looked at the files that were changed, it wasn't a small amount of changes. So anyway, yeah, I think if you take a look and then form an opinion, that would be good. Like mine wasn't strong enough to say yes or no, but.
Okay, I'll try to get to it today or tomorrow.
For me, I'm good with the diagnostic channel, the PR that is landed. I'm fully bought into that. But from the span API perspective, I had a first pass the view of the span API. Unfortunately, I'm finding it a little bit difficult to either understand or figure out how the span is going to be used within the diagnostic channel to be useful, to be added as a mainstream capability. So probably I will have a second pass through that and then put my questions. Oh, I understand that the span API was separated out from the original diagnostic channel API itself to reduce the complexity. So my question to Stephen would be is this absolutely essential while the diagnostic channel itself evolve in the experimental phase, and this can be an add-on based on how the APMs provide feedback to us. But definitely it's a question that I should put in the PR.
Yeah, so I think both are great questions to ask in the PR. First, how it's going to be used within the Diagnostics channel. I think this even should be part of the documentation if it's not already. Oops, wrong request. Oh, it has documentation. Okay. Yeah, maybe it needs to have a better documentation explaining the use case behind the API. And the second question, if it's really necessary for the experimental phase of the diagnostics channel, I think it's really good as well. Maybe we should first live with diagnostics channel as it is right now for a little bit before thinking about adding more APIs.
Yeah. I mean, the best I could understand from the span is like we have number of APM vendors exist, and if you look at the diagnostic channel, it's an event bus. You can think about it as a producer and consumer of diagnostic data, and the data gets consumed in an endless manner in a production system. So how do we define delimiters? How do we define custom structure for the logs or traces that's coming in? That's where the span comes in. That's the best I could understand. So probably based on different APMs and their use cases, their exact requirements, we could still iterate over the span based as to what should be the structure of the span, what should be the scope of the span, what should be the goal of the span, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it is probably something that, like, the modules or packages could create their own span values and basically do it on their own as well. So this kind of goes back to, I think, the earlier comment of like maybe the existing diagnostic channel can be used a little bit and get more feedback before adding more things is along the lines of what I was thinking too. Unless there's a strong case for them. I mean, obviously, like, I'm not so strongly opposed, just also not really like, hey, we need to do it anytime soon necessarily.
Maybe we could have a target for how many producers we want using the API before we start adding new things. For example, we might say that we want 2 libraries or frameworks using the API or use the API to produce diagnostic data. before we add new things?
Yeah, or like things that we don't think are needed to make it, like if there's
Yeah.
something that's needed to make to gain adoption, then totally, right? But like we don't need to build out, if we don't think it's something that is needed for adoption, then maybe we could wait until there's a couple of consumers. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So does anyone have any other comments on this topic? Okay, so we can move on to the next issue, which is proposal to mark async resources and async local storage as stable. This one was also added by Stephen. Um, there has been a lot of discussion lately. I mean, not lately, but since it was open.
Yeah, I think we pretty much agreed on our next steps. One is like to define a set of exit criteria for async local storage. And I guess async resource, it seemed like there was consensus. It could be stable, but talking with Cord, it was like, it wasn't certain that like it would make sense to do one versus the other. So I don't think there was nobody who was saying, hey, it was a big rush to do that if we were going to wait on async local storage.
So I think I'm gonna comment here asking if we should remove from Diag agenda.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like basically until there's a proposal for the exit criteria, it doesn't necessarily make sense to be on the.
Okay, so let's see what Stephen says about this one. Anyone else has other comments on this? Okay, so moving on to the next one. Internal script should be hidden in the Spectre. I think I added this one. Yeah.
This one is back from 2017, isn't it?
Yeah, but it got traction again lately.
Okay. Oh, so you added back on. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So basically, the proposal is to black box by default all scripts that are internal to Node.js. So for example, FS, child process, all of those black box them. So when you step into a function or step out of a function, you don't end up in a code that is internal to Node.js. And initially, this was blocked by because it was hard to identify what is a node module and what isn't. But recently we had a pull request that changed how functions look in a stack trace on DevTools. So now they are prefixed by they're prefixed by something that can be used to identify what is a
Yeah, it's
request
node
function and what
colon
isn't.
from the PR.
Yeah, I think it is. Or node internal colon maybe.
Listen, what I see is node colon internal and then
Yeah, node colon.
modules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these hijacks could be used to identify anything that is a node module and then black box it. The next step would be to use the debugger set black box pattern command on Node.js to filter out those those modules. Someone just needs to volunteer to do this work. So this is on the agenda as a call for action to
Yep.
someone that is interested in working on this, in improving debugability on Chrome DevTools.
Does that only
Those
affect Chrome DevTools? Can we use the same thing to hide like the node bits, internal node bits in stack traces we generate and exceptions and stuff too, or?
not in stack traces we generate. I mean, maybe, but it probably adds overhead. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess that, yeah. Okay.
I mean, we definitely can. We probably can when printing out the stack trace
Right.
because you already colored it gray today.
Yep.
I'm not sure about if we can remove it from the .stack object.
Yeah, and I
Just
guess it would
because,
get confusing if when you print it, you don't see them, but when you
yeah.
get them yourselves. It was just a thought. I can see how, like in the inspector, it would be helpful anyway.
So in the inspector, delineating or differentiating core modules versus application code makes sense, because most of the time when you perform live debugging, you see number of code, the control flow jumping between various modules, various files. It's very easy for one to get confused. But is the requirement really to hide the control flow, completely bypass the control flow, or just to highlight the core modules from application code? There is no security aspect or any privacy aspect as such, right? It's just about the convenience.
It's about convenience, yes. The proposal is to completely hide those from the flow when you're using
Yeah.
Chrome DevTools to step into a function. So basically, when you are live debugging, the reason
Yeah.
for that is Chrome DevTools doesn't have a way to highlight if a function is internal or not, and it has a feature that allows you to black box a module so that step in, step out doesn't enter that function,
Mm-hmm.
that module.
Does it?
So
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
Does it mean that you, like, if you don't black box them, will you step into those internal functions? Or is it that when you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is actually, if, for example, we wanted to debug the internal behavior, it might make that harder.
Yeah. For
I'm just thinking
example,
it should probably be optional, right?
So Chrome DevTools allows you to remove a black box pattern.
Okay.
So for core developers, that shouldn't be an issue. You just need to remove. We
Right.
could also add a flag that opts out of this behavior.
Okay. Yeah, just as long as there's a way to undo easily, that still makes sense. The default, you're right. I mean, still probably should be to hide because that's what most people would want.
So when we hide, if a method A is calling a method B and B is calling a method C, where A and C belong to the application and B belongs to the node core, um, a jump from A would directly be shown as an entry to function C with a complete bypass of B. Is that the actual requirement?
My guess is that's how the DevTools feature works. I haven't tried it actually,
Okay.
but yeah, my guess is that's how the feature works.
Okay. Yeah. And you said to make that work complete, somebody has to actually look at the inspector code. Is that correct? Or
Yes, inspector code on Node.js.
okay.
That's the idea. At least we are mostly guessing that this can be implemented on Node.js and not on Chrome DevTools. Someone just needs to dig deeper to make sure that it is implementable, or if we need to drop it because it would need to be implemented on Chrome DevTools.
Yeah, and I guess this is, I'm going to paste the link from the chat, sorry, from the issue. This is probably the comment. Yeah, that's the link that shows the example of what Joey's thinking might work. So
Yeah, that should be enough to black box node modules. Any other comments on this topic? Does anyone wants to volunteer to work on this?
I can help, but I don't understand completely the feature because I guess this is more than a flag feature because sometimes we need to go inside the Node modules to figure out some modules that are breaking. But this feature needs to be built inside the Chrome DevTools or inside the Node Inspector protocol.
We think it can be built on the Node Inspector protocol. If it can't, we should close the issue as one fix basically because it wouldn't be implementable on our side.
right at
Okay.
that point, the dev tools would have to provide an option.
Yeah.
Okay. I will take a look on the context, and after I can help.
Yeah, I think the suggestion was like when Chrome Dev Tools connects to our inspector before doing the regular stuff, injecting some additional commands, right? Which is that suggestion.
Okay. Great.
So just finding that spot and trying to send a message ourselves in our own code, and like whether the flag itself probably would be a flag when you start the anyway, that once you figure out if that works, then figuring out where the flag would go, which shouldn't be too hard.
Anything else on this issue?
No, Raphael, thanks for taking a look.
Okay, so moving on to the next one. Improve the V8 profiler performance. Issue 444.
Yeah. This one was created because the CPU profiler was done, and the remaining task is to improve the VH profiler performance at production environment, because depending on what application, how many functions are on top of the application, the profiler spends more time. So this is not able to run in production in some environments. So this issue is only to track this problem and to close the another one.
And the performance issue that we know about is only on startup, not on profiler execution.
Yeah. So, but I think that we need some test cases or some reproduction code to work on it, because it's harder to figure out only by comments or something like this.
Yeah, certainly a test case which showed the overhead would be quite useful.
Yeah.
Maybe we could even start with by creating a benchmark on Node.js, so we can test for regressions as well in the future.
I guess it's like, would we use we have an Acme Air benchmark, and we have the Node DCEIS. Would one of those two make sense to use?
No, I was thinking actually as a benchmark in the benchmark folder.
Ah, okay.
We could have a new directory for inspector, for example, and we could add there.
What would it benchmark? Because it would have to, it would have to run something and then turn the benchmark, the profiler on or off to see the overhead, right? By comparison.
It should benchmark function execution with and without the profiler, as well as profiler startup time based on how many functions there are on the heap.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds interesting.
So the Alexei mentioned this issue on another issues on load profiler Node.js if this seems a problem of performance. So we can check the issue also to try to make a test case also.
Yeah, in the profiling roadmap issue, I think there was some examples, so it's probably worth looking there as well. Also, I think Stephen is familiar with the issue, or Flarna, or both. No, it's Flarna. Flarna is familiar with the issue, so you can also ping him to ask for examples. I'm sure he would be happy to help.
Okay. So I will ping him, and so we need to create some test cases, and after it create a benchmark on the Node.js benchmark to be sure of this problem, and after work on it, this is the workflow.
Yes. It's better to work with the VA team on fixing a performance issue if we can demonstrate the performance issue. So having a reproducible benchmark is probably the best way to start this issue.
Okay, great.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else on this issue? Can we remove from the agenda until the benchmark part is done?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next one. Identify async hooks use cases beyond async local storage. This one was added by Stephen as well. Does anyone have context on this?
No, I think that this is just about what are the use cases that we need to cover beyond what's covered by async local storage. You know, along the lines of we don't necessarily think async hooks will get to be stable, but there may be some other APIs, higher level different APIs that we do need to build on top of it, kind of like async local storage, but to cover whatever the other use cases. So this is to like identify what are those other use cases.
Maybe we should move it to a diagnostics deep dive instead of regular agenda item.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay. And last one is add IO Redis to problematic modules. So I still have an action item to create separate issues for each of the modules we have on problematic modules.md, and then remove that file because the file itself is problematic. I tried to get it done this week as well, so we can remove this from the agenda and close the request.
Yeah, makes sense.
Any other comments on this?
Nope.
Okay, so this was the last agenda item we had for this week. We only have 15 minutes left, so I don't think we can go into a deep dive right now. Does anyone have anything else they would like to discuss?
I have a question. The last meeting on the working group is the the normal agenda is not a deep dive. We cancel all the meetings from deep dive. I mean, I don't think that we have the sorry. You can continue. I can ask it later.
Uh, no, we can discuss that now. So we canceled our deep dive meetings so that we could use the second half of the regular meetings to do the deep dive instead of having a weekly meeting. The main reason was because our regular agenda was not as packed as it is right now.
I think though we could alternate, like we could just like we didn't. Probably some of these we could have just said, "Oh, not urgent to discuss this week. Let's focus on the other things."
I agree with that. I think we can keep the regular cadence of meetings, but give a bit more priority to deep dives unless we have urgent issues to discuss.
Yeah, like maybe every other one. If you take a look or whatever, you or Jarish, and say, okay, hey, comment on the issue. This one's going to be like a deep dive focused versus the regular agenda.
Okay, I got it. So when we feel the necessity, we add the deep dive.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, I think we had at least a few regular meetings where we deep dived into topics that were in the regular agenda. So I think it's a matter of tidying up the agenda and making sure that the items we have there are really worth discussing. So basically what Michael said.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else on this topic or any other topic that folks want to discuss before we end the meeting?
Nope.
I guess the meeting will stay at this time, or will move it for another time. We don't have the.
I think we'll probably move to a different time,
Okay.
but that's something that we should discuss on the GitHub issue because discussing it in the meeting leverages those that can join the meeting. So it's biased towards those that
Yeah.
the time now is good. I think we almost have enough information on the issue to make a decision.
Okay, great.
Okay, so anything else? Okay, so I think we can end for today. Thank you everyone for joining. See you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.